And so we don't have any of the vowels, none of the Tami Hamikra, which is kind of like a punctuation, a dual function, punctuation and cantillation. And what you'll find is that that is a Hebrew text which is not the same as the Masoretic text. What's the difference, right? That text is the Hebrew text without vowels. The Masoretic text is what I have here. It's where you put the vowels in. That's the only difference.
No, but here's the point.
What Ben Asher did when he made the Masoretic text was the first time you had a Torah where you could have the vowels
and
in it.
When did Ben Asher come into? When was he?
So he was in the 10th century.
Exactly. Right, that's the point.
Or the 9th century or something.
No, my question.
He put the vowels in.
Josh, have I let you speak?
Yes.
Now, from my understanding, and you can please correct me if I'm wrong. You've got, in terms of your documents, you've just said you basically just said you take the Masoretic text, yeah?
Yes.
All right, no problem. I was asking you to mention that name. You didn't want to mention it for some reason. Okay, that's one. Number two, you've got other documents. For example, the Haggadah. And you've also got the halacha, or things from the Talmud, basically the Palestinian Talmud, the Jerusalem Talmud, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, all that stuff is very, very late. What connects that text, the Masoretic text, the scrolls that you're talking about in the synagogue, with Moses? Where's your chain of narration?
So the chain is as follows. Before I get to the chain, I need to say a preamble to the chain, because we have a set of rules as to how to write a Torah scroll, right? A set of rules, and it's very, very intricate, and there's a specific way that you're supposed to write it, and it has to be written.
And they were put by Ben Asher.
No, the rules were from long before that.
By whom?
Right?
Who established those rules?
So the earliest documentation, which does not mean that this is when they were established.
Yes.
The earliest documentation of the rules is found in the Tanaic period, right?
So what we're talking here?
So we're talking either the first, somewhere in the first 2 centuries BCE or in the first 2 centuries CE.
No, wait, hold on. You're saying first 2 centuries BCE?
Yes.
So, wait, hold on. You're saying first 2 centuries BCE?
Yes.
What's the manuscript evidence of that?
So if you have a look in, for example, the Tosefta, right, which is actually a little bit after CE, right?
When?
Which is a little bit after CE.
And how much of it is? Yeah, go on.
So you'll find there very intricate rules with regards to writing of Sifrei Torah. I'm pretty sure there are others from BCE, but I can't remember them off the top of my head.
When was Moses about?
I'm coming to it. Please.
No, I'm letting you speak.
You're asking me a very intricate question, a very complex question.
Bro,
and
Josh, you're the one.
You're more than a minute to answer.
Josh, listen, I'm not interrogating you. I'm giving you you're speaking more than I am.
Because you're asking the questions.
Yeah, inshallah. Okay, let me finish.
When you ask a question, you should expect a detailed answer.
No, but before you get into something deep, I'm asking you, when was Moses?
Moses went on Sinai 3,334 years ago.
So put that in BCE terms.
But that's really just
making you do maths now.
1400,
something like that. I'm sure you've done the maths.
Let's say 1,000.
Let's just say
something like that.
Right, no problem.
As I say, 3,334.
How do you establish the gap in terms of your manuscripts in first, second century BCE to Moses in 1,400 BCE?
So this is what I'm coming to now.
Yes, please.
So once we've said that around that time we already know that the rules for how to write the text, which if even one letter is different, then you have to throw the scroll out.
So you're talking about 1,400 years after Moses?
Yes. So we know that those rules were documented at that point. So the question then is, when were the rules established? Now, according to us, we will hold that that those rules are part of an oral tradition that we will say goes back to Moses. And now you'll ask for a chain of narration.
Please.
For this oral tradition.
Please.
So the oral tradition, we believe, was passed from Moses to his student Joshua and the 70 elders.
Okay.
Joshua then passed it down to Eleazar and to Othniel, the son of Kenaz.
Okay.
Othniel the son of Kenaz passed it down to his successor, who was Ehud the son of Gera.
Okay.
He then passed it down to his successor, who was Shamgar the son of Anath, who
Okay.
passed it down to Barak the son of Avinoam,
Okay.
who lived at the time of Deborah the prophetess.
Okay.
Then Barak
So what are we
passed it
talking
down
about?
to-
300 years.
In terms of the number of years.
Yeah, but now you've gone about you've got 1,400 years
I
to
know.
make up.
I know. I'm going
Yeah,
through all the
let-
names.
Well, hold on. Giving me names without giving me evidence of these people's existences or some kind of these people lived in this area, these people had this occupation is useless. All you're doing now is for all we know, you could be fabricating these names. What you're trying to do, and Josh, I'll be honest with you, right? It's a contrived and I'm not going to use a strong term, but it's a contrived attempt to try and emulate the Islamic sciences, where there's no chance you can. Let me tell you why. We don't just mention names. When we say the Prophet sent it down to this person, that person, we know that these people existed. We know where they existed. We know what geography they existed in. We know what kind of life they had. We know the biographies that they had. And we have historical information about them. Now, every single name that you've mentioned is exactly that. Are just names. Now,
So I'll give you information about them.
no, we don't have the time to sit here and go for 1,000. You're talking about 1,400 year gap of names between Moses and when you're saying the rules were established. And let me just be straightforward with you, yeah. And to be honest, I've read works from prominent scholars of Judaism like Jacob Neusner. Okay, you don't know him?
I've heard of him.
Well, he's actually one of the most published men on earth. He's got a record. He's published like 1,000 books. Yeah. You should know him. You should know him. No, he's a big name. He is a big name. Yeah. And what you're doing here is it's a slapdash academic attempt to try and fill up a hole which cannot be filled. It cannot be filled, and it has not been. No scholar in academia takes this seriously.
Of course not, because the academics do not believe in the Bible at all.
No,
they don't believe in the Quran either. They just haven't got to that yet.
The conversations must be different. The reason why the conversations must be different is this. When we're talking about our manuscripts, we're talking about what, 30 years after Uthman? When we're talking about the people on our chains, we're talking about what? We're talking about people who we've got not only manuscript evidence for, but we have cross-referential data about. You simply don't have that data. You're not giving us any confidence that the 1,400 year gap that you've just described here can in any way, shape or form be filled up with anything other than blind faith and listening to your elders. That's the truth, Joshua. No. If a person from another religion, a Hindu, did the same thing with you and gave you names of figures that might be fictitious, might not have even existed, there's no manuscript evidence of their existence, there's no cross-referencing where they lived, there's nothing, then you would not accept it and you'd say this is not good enough evidence.
No, because that's not what I would be looking for. What I look for when it comes to a religion, whether or not they're based on any truth, is the revelation narrative, right? If you're making a claim about the way revelation took place to start with, and all you've got is one guy spoke to a talking fish, right? That's all you've got. You have one guy who claims to be God, or one guy who claims an angel spoke to him.
Right. So that's where we go back to our point.
But
It was
we have
Josh.
We have an entire nation of people
Josh,
claiming a mass national
beautiful.
revelation in a mountain.
Excellent, Josh. I don't
No other religion
listen.
has.
We accept that, okay? We believe in that, and we're not saying everything you hold in your hand is wrong or fabricated or ahistorical. We're saying that if you want us to believe every vowel, every letter, every story, and with this many conflicting manuscripts, with this much gap that you have, it's unreasonable for us to believe in that. But what I will say is this. This is why you should not be totally confident in the book that you hold in your hand. And I will say this. We said that because we went on a tangent here, Josh. We said that there are 3 conditions that disqualify a prophet. And you just said it yourself now. One of them is, what kind of prophet are we talking about? And what kind of God is he calling to? We can't deny that the Prophet Muhammad and the Quran both talk specifically about Moses. talk specifically about him receiving the revelation. Talk specifically about the God of Moses, literally the God of Moses. Okay, and that is the God we believe in. Now, what we're saying is, already, number one, we're not asking you to be disloyal to God. Number two, we're not asking you to believe in another God. And number three here, the third point, which was talked about in Deuteronomy 18:21, is that the prophecies that this prophet came with are in fact had materialized. So I'll give you 5 examples, Josh, because I was meant to be doing this in the beginning.
Sure.
Okay? For example, in the Quran it states that the Romans had been defeated in a nearby lowland, and that in 3 to 9 years that they will become victorious. Okay? Now this materialized. It's very specific, and it materialized. The Quran states that the Muslims will be victorious and that they will enter Mecca محلقين رؤوسهم مقصرين لا يخافون أو لا تخافون علم ما لا تعلمون, that they will go in and they will be cutting their hair and they will be shaving it and they will have no fear, meaning there will be no fighting. So the Quran predicts that the Muslims will be victorious against the pagans and that they will not be fighting, and that's exactly what happened. It was a conquest which meant that the Muslims could freely go and do Hajj, which happened, Umrah or Hajj or whatever, pilgrimage. Number two. Number three, and this relates to the Palestine issue. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, "U'adud sittan bayna yaday as-sa'a, mawti thumma fathu bayt al-maqdisi." Said, count 6 things before the day of judgment: my death and then the conquest of Jerusalem. And we know historically, without a shadow of a doubt, that Islam conquered Jerusalem.
Of course.
Of course. So these are things, I'm giving you some examples, but Islam, the fact that the Prophet, he predicted where Islam was going to go. He did so in a situation of weakness. One time he was being attacked by all places. إِذْ جَاءُكُم مِّن فَوْقِكُم مِّنْ أَسْفَلَ مِنْكُمْ. You know, when they came from above and below, from the city and all these kinds of places, and that your visions were blurred. وَبَلَغَتِ الْقُلُوبُ الْحَنَاجِرُ وَتَظُنُّونَ بِاللَّهِ الظُّنُونَ, and that, you know, the hearts were, at that time, okay, the Prophet made a prediction. There was a rock, he knocked it one time. He said, فُتِحَ الرُّومُ, that the Roman Empire has been conquered. And then again, فُتِحَ Faris, that the Persian Empire has been conquered. And then he said, فُتِحَ الْيَمَنِ, and then after that he said, Yemen will be conquered. Imagine in a state of bleak weakness, a situation where it's totally bleak and total weakness, where he was so hungry, the Prophet, that he had to tie a rock to his stomach, and that they were fighting him from everywhere, that he predicted that he would take over the major empires of the world. So amazing was this, that even historians like Barnaby Rogerson, he said the fact that the Arabs had conquered the Roman and Persian Empire, it's like Eskimos conquering America and Russia. It's something which is miraculous by all standards. So these are some examples of things that the Prophet told us, even things which relate to today, that there will be the Arabs, the barefooted Arab, يَتَطَاوَلُونَ فِي الْبُنْيَانِ, that they will be competing for the high buildings. These are things which the Bible tells us. Imagine if you make all of these predictions and you get them wrong. That when the Prophet made predictions of the future, he made predictions which astonishingly, even though the probability of them coming true were very low, did come true. Where Islam would spread, where Islam would go, even where the fighting would happen, what would happen in the future. You know, the greening of the Arabian Peninsula, that the Arabian Peninsula will become green after it has become barren. Even things relating to climate change and the ecological environment. This is too much. Even sexually transmitted diseases, bro. Can you imagine there's a hadith that says that fornication will become so widespread that there will be diseases لم تكن موجودة من قبل, that it was not even there. The invention of new sexually transmitted diseases, not just the proliferation of sexually transmitted diseases. These things are specific to the Quran and the Sunnah. These are prophecies of the future, and they, would you agree with me, yeah, they put the Prophet, at least from your perspective, a biblical perspective, yeah, in serious contention for prophethood. Would you agree with that?
In serious contention, from a biblical perspective, I would have to concede yes.
Exactly. Now remember, if this is the case, because he came telling us to believe in the God of Moses. He didn't tell us to be disloyal to God. In fact, the fact is, the cardinal sin in Islam is that if you worship anything other than God. We're saying that the purpose of life is to worship one God only. That's the purpose of life. But the thing is this, we say that Prophet also came with something. The Quran states, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا كَافَةً لِلنَّاسِ. We have not sent you except for all of humanity. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. We have not sent you except for a mercy of humankind. So the fact is, we believe that there was a transition after Moses. And the transition meant for a prophet this time who would come and who would be for all of humanity. Now you've conceded that he is, at least according to your biblical criterion, okay, that he would have to be in serious contention.
Yes.
What now, my question is, what must be done in order for you to go above that bridge, or across that bridge I should say, yeah? And for you to say, no, not only is he a serious contender, but in fact he is the true prophet. What must be met?
Well, according to Jewish tradition,
Okay.
he would have to be accepted by the Sanhedrin, right? Every single, no, that's not true. Every single prophet that we accepted as a true prophet was accepted so by the court. Now the court was disbanded a long time before Muhammad even came to the scene, before he was ever born. And they had already declared many years earlier, with the death of the prophet Ezra, that prophecy had left the world entirely. There was no more prophecy. We had sunk to a spiritual low in the world where there was no more prophecy. That's according to our tradition, that we would therefore not be able to accept anyone who came as claiming to be a prophet after that. That's really a technicality in terms of chronology. But besides that, we still have not really got around the issue of disloyalty, based on the point that I made earlier. I still have not quoted the verse.
Go ahead.
It's in Exodus.
But can I just
31.
you can quote it. I will let you quote it, but you've made a point, so it has to be answered, right? What gives the authority to the court? Does revelation give authority to the court, or does the court give authority to revelation?
Revelation gives authority to the court,
Great.
as it says in Deuteronomy.
Great, and this is the problem. The Quran actually calls some Jewish people out on this. It says, اتخذوا رهبانهم وأحبارهم أربابا من دون الله, yeah, والمسيح ابن مريم. They take their priests and their rabbis as lords beside God, and they also take Jesus, son of Mary. Someone came to the not you. Christians and Jews.
Oh, the Christians and the Jews.
Yes. Now they were.
It's a bit like that
Well, let me
Ezra
explain before you proclaim its nonsense. Have some patience. When the Prophet was asked about this one person, who was named as Adi ibn Hatim, he was a Jew in his previous life. He said exactly what you just said. He said, we don't take, we didn't used to take, our rabbis as God. And then the Prophet, he responded, he said, did they not make permissible what was impermissible? And did they not make impermissible what was permissible? Meaning, there is a band of Jewish people, and you cannot deny this, that they take the rulings of the court that you're talking about, or they take the Talmudic understanding as superior to the revelation. And this, in so much as they are willing to weight it against revelation, or that they are willing to understand revelation only through its lens. Now what I'm saying is, this is exactly a type of polytheism. You know why?
Why?
The Quran tells you why. Am shara'u lahum min ad-din ma lam ya'dam bihi Allah. Have they been given authority of the religion what Allah has not given them authority? The court that you're speaking of has no authority.
Well, in Deuteronomy it gives them authority.
No.
Yes, in Deuteronomy it gives them authority. Now you can dispute what...
who are them? Your guys now? Who is them?
So the original court was the 70 elders that was set up by Moses, right? The court system was expanded by Jethro, and this court system, we believe, and we do have some evidence, right?
Yes.
Maybe not to the extent of your hadith thing, of this being something which continued all the way in terms of the court system, all the way till the end of the Gaonic period, right?
Which is when we're talking about.
That's already the 9th or the 10th century.
So what's the biblical evidence for the court?
the biblical evidence for the court having authority is in Deuteronomy chapter 19.
For the Sanhedrin court.
Yeah, the Sanhedrin. It developed into the Sanhedrin.
Say again?
It became known as the Sanhedrin.
Oh,
yes.
okay. Yeah.
And get this up. One second.
Didn't God also condemn the judges in Psalm 82?
1 second.
But yeah, while you're discussing that.
Yeah, get us that as well, because that's a nice question.
No, I've got the verse written down.
By the way, I appreciate your patience, discussion. I learned from this guy. He's got some good stuff to say.
Can you read that?
All right, should let him go here for his thing first, and then we'll. I like the session, man. You got them ready, eh? You got them ready, don't you?
Yeah, I'm still learning.
Yeah, so, man.
I didn't expect you here today.
Yeah, man. No, it's
Enjoyed
good.
your discussion with Barton. It's quite good.
It was all right, innit?
Should have more of those.
Oh, this guy's got his documents. Are you going to court or something?
Well, I'm studying.
He's got his
law.
black coat as well.
No, I appreciate this.
Yeah, he does his homework. That's important.
Not only that, no, he's just giving me his evidences. Yeah, please.
Okay, so in Deuteronomy chapter 17, I'll read you what it says there. If there arise a matter too hard for you in judgment, between blood and blood, between law and law, between stroke and stroke, even matters of controversy within your gates, then shall you arise and go up to the place which Hashem your God shall choose. And you shall come to the priests, the Levites, and the judge that shall be in those days, and you shall inquire, and they shall declare to you the sentence of judgment, and you shall do according to the sentence that they shall declare to you from the place that Hashem shall choose, and you shall observe to do according to all that they shall teach you, according to the Torah that they shall teach you, right? According to the Torah that they shall teach you, and according to the judgments that they shall tell you, you shall do. You shall not turn aside from the sentence that they shall declare to you to the right hand or the left hand. And the man that does presumptuously in not listening to the priest that stands to minister there before Hashem your God, or unto the judge, even that man shall die, and you shall exterminate the evil from Israel.
Now, where does it say that these judges can decide who is a prophet and who's not a prophet?
So this is a matter which is hard in judgment. This is a matter which is hard in judgment.
You have to know now. This is very tenuous, I have to say. I'm disappointed by this because all this shows us. All this. It's a tenuous link because all it shows us is that there are judges that can be appointed for jurisprudential matters and that they must use the Torah as a guidance or as the guide for that. That's all this shows.
This does not only show that.
What else does it show?
Only in civil matters. It says it starts off, if there arise a matter too hard for you in judgment, and then it gives various examples between blood and blood, between law and law, between stroke and stroke. Now, one of the many laws found in the Torah is the laws regarding to how to distinguish between a true and a false prophet.
No,
this is a matter which is hard in judgment.
When it says law and law, what do you think this is referring to?
In the Hebrew, it's bein din ladin.
Yeah, bein din ladin.
Yeah, you have a similar word din in Arabic, right? So din means law, right? Even today, if I have a question of whether or not I'm supposed to do something or I'm not allowed to do something, I'll ask a rabbi, and what will I ask him for? I'll ask him for the din. What's the din in this particular?
What does
matter?
That mean?
Right? What's the law in this particular matter?
Right. No, you're just affirming what I've just said to you. They are not allowed to invent anything from themselves, correct?
They don't invent it.
Right, so they
tell you what it is.
They interpret the Torah
to
tell you. So what their job is not to establish who is a true prophet, who is not. That's not their job. Their job is simply very limited, to jurisprudence. That is what their job is.
Civil and criminal court.
Yeah, that's what they are.
Not just civil and criminal.
Well, it doesn't say anything about religion, does it?
Where does it say that if a prophet is to present himself, he must present himself to the judges. And they must
say that.
So you've made that up.
No, I've not made that up.
No, that is made up.
That was the question he was asking.
Yeah, I was telling you, bro. Josh, please. If the Bible is speaking on the 3 cases that we've spoken about in Deuteronomy 18 and the other 2 verses that you mentioned, yeah, how to distinguish between a true prophet and a false prophet. You said it can't be disloyal, he's got to call to the right God, and if he calls with an oracle that hasn't come to pass. Those,
how do we know what's disloyalty?
Wait. Those verses, are they generic or are they specific?
Yeah, specific.
No, what I mean is this. Who is God speaking to? Is he speaking to the judges or is he speaking to me and you?
Speaking to all of us.
Excellent. Right, hold on, that's it, it's done now. Because if you're saying God is speaking to all of us, then no longer is this a matter which is specific to the judges. Therefore, to give the judges the ultimate authority in being able to distinguish between who's a true prophet and a false prophet goes against the generic wording or the wording of the Bible, which seems to indicate that anybody can do this as a matter of religion. The judges have no authority.
The implication of somebody being a false prophet, what is that implication? According to Deuteronomy 13 and 18, he has to be put to death. That is a very severe punishment, and something which is very much the scope of a judge. If somebody brings somebody to
but that's
court,
fine.
This person is claiming to be a prophet.
But Josh,
is he true or false?
Josh,
if he's false, then he's going to be put to death.
Josh, what we've said is you've said it yourself. That all of the conditions that you've said have to be in place does not disqualify the Prophet Muhammad and puts him into serious contention for prophethood. So that
I said that what puts him into contention is the fact that he said things that came true.
Yes.
We have still not got past the disloyalty thing. We still haven't read.
No, I understand, but the fact that you're even having this discussion with me and you're not deferring it to a judge indicates that you think and you know that it's not for just the judges; it's for all of us.
It's not just
because because then you would be talking out of turn. If you believe, if you believed that the matter was for judges to decide, and you're here talking to me about whether or not the law is applicable, or that the criterion has been met or not been met, and you've had these conversations before, and you keep coming to Speaker's Corner, then unless you're a judge, you're speaking out of turn.
No, that's not the case.
Of course it's the case.
Because I'm not issuing any judgment here. I'm not issuing any legal, anything which has legal
It's not a matter of judgment, right?
It is, though. It's a matter of legal implications.
It has no.
There's a very clear legal implication if somebody's a true or false prophet.
Can a judge get things wrong?
Judges can get things wrong.
Good. So if a judge decides,
but God has made the system.
No, but if the judge decides, and this is where maybe your verses come in handy. Because the judges have also been attacked in the Bible, yeah? If the judges, So if the judges get things wrong and you follow them, what happens?
And you follow them, then if they've got it wrong and you follow them, then you've got nothing. Then God has nothing against you.
No. It matters to do with revelation.
Yes.
So hold on. Let me be clear.
Yes.
If a judge says to you that we should do a practice, which is a pagan practice, and they've got it wrong, and you follow them in this. They tell you to worship another god.
Well, there's actually laws about that in Leviticus.
No, but
it talks about that specifically.
And what's the answer?
The answer is that an offering has to be brought when it's realised that a mistake has been made.
No. If the judge,
if the judge made a mistake.
No, if the judge tells you to do something which which goes against the first commandment, the second commandment.
Yes.
Okay, so is that conceivable?
It's conceivable. But
excellent. So if that's conceivable. If the judge gets it wrong and you follow him on something which will render you a polytheist, do you get punished for that, for being a polytheist?
There is a degree of punishment. I'm being told I'm supposed to be...
No, but this is important. Don't leave now because the Quran makes this... I agree with you. Listen. Josh, listen.
Yes.
We agree on one point. On matters to do with law, if you follow the judge, you're alleviated from the punishment. We also believe that. Because there's a very similar verse in the Quran. Listen. Well, you just said that, in matters of controversy, there's a very similar verse. It goes like this: وَإِذَا جَاءُكُم بِأَمْرٍ مِنَ الْأَمْنِ أَوْ الْخَوْفِ أَذَاعُوا بِهِ. Listen. وَلَوْ رَدُّوهُ إِلَى الرَّسُولِ وَإِلَى أُولِي الْأَمْرِ مِنْهُمْ لَعَلِمَهُ الَّذِينَ يَسْتَنبِطُونَهُ مِنْهُمْ. That if they come with you with a controversial matter or a matter of fear and safety, they will announce it. But had they returned it to the Prophet and to the people who know how to extrapolate among them, then they would have known how to extrapolate it. And that's why the Quran says, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلِ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask the people of knowledge if you don't know. When you go and follow a jurisprudential ruling of a judge, you're alleviated, I agree. But not in matters which relate to ultimate salvation. Not in matters of polytheism. Not in matters of this is a prophet or not. And what's the evidence of that? The evidence of that is that if a judge, as we've said, calls you to polytheism, calls you to worship Jesus, if a judge, a Jewish judge says, worship Jesus Christ, and you worship him, you will now be sinful completely, correct?
Yes.
Excellent. That's why I say, if a judge says, don't follow a prophet which has a revelation, which his authority is higher than the judge, then the same thing should apply. And one more thing, Josh, one more thing.
Yes.
The Quran actually mentions this. It says, يَوْمَ يَتَبَرَّأَ الَّذِينَ اتُّبِعُوا مِنَ الَّذِينَ اتَّبَعُوا وَرَأَوُا الْعَذَابَ وَتَقَطَّعَ بِهِمُ الْأَسْبَابِ. That the day where the people who have been following, the followers, the blind followers, the sheep, they will disassociate, or the followed will be they will disassociate from the followers, and then the punishment will be shown. It's in these matters. So I say to you, be careful. And this goes back to اتخذوا أحبارهم ورهبانهم أربابا من دون الله والمسيح ابن مريم. They took their priests and rabbis as gods besides God because they've made permissible what's not permissible. That if you make your faith about following judges on issues to do with salvific potential, then what you're doing is no better, than what polytheists do. There must be an aspect of you being able to distinguish by yourself, like you have, and you said this more than once. The Prophet is a contender at least based on the criterion of the Bible. You said it. That you must be able to make that decision independently. You have to, and this is what the Quran says this. But Josh, listen, I don't want to be preaching to you, but the Quran says this. وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمُ اتَّبَعُوا مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ. When they said to them, follow what God has sent down, قَالُوا بَلْ نَتَّبَعُ مَا أَلْفَيْنَا عَلَيْهِ آبَاؤُنَا. They say, no, we're just going to follow what our predecessors came with. وَلَوْ كَانَ آبَاؤُهُمْ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ شَيْءٍ وَلَا يَعْقِلُونَ. Even if their predecessors...
You need to go.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is you must extract yourself from the idea that if it's the judges that make a decision about your life.
Mohammed,
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
we need to wrap up.
Right, go ahead.
So we need to go. So
Sorry,
can we continue this conversation next week?
Of course.
I'd very much like to continue. We can set a time. We'll continue next week on Sunday. If you want to meet me at 3:30.
Well, Aaron's got my number. We'll get in contact and stuff. You've got Aaron's number, yeah?
I have Yoel's number. I have Ali Dawa's number as well.
All right, so we'll sort it. Yeah.
All right, cool.
We'll sort it. Thank you, my friend. Yeah, take care, yeah? Think about what I've said. Think about what I've said, friend, yeah? What's happened? Huh?
All right, Josh. See you
next week.
Next time, inshallah.
All right.
Do you want to wrap up? You okay? Do you want to summarize or you okay?
No, I'm all right. There's a lot of cameras here. That was a very interesting discussion. And
They still stick to the Masoretic text, which is the 10th century, isn't it?
yeah, tell us more.
I think it would be best if Josh was here, otherwise he'll tell me. He's speaking when he's gone.
Yeah, I agree.
He said he'll come back next Sunday.
Let's talk when he's here, so it doesn't seem like we're doing anything underhandedly.
Exactly.
And hopefully you guys have benefited from that. I know it was a long one, but you learn a lot from these kind of ones. Yeah. All right, come.